Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to be here, and thanks to TeamKinetic for having me. This is such a fun topic to talk about because it makes your life easier. When you are getting ready to think about volunteer recruitment, I want you to think about a win-back campaign first. If you need volunteers, it is so much easier to go to folks who already know, like, and trust you than it is to go out in the world of strangers and start to make your case. And so this is a little known tactic that I think is a really smart marketing tactic for all of you. So I'm excited to be able to share this today. In case, I got to get to my regular slide deck. I'm on my tiny laptop, so I'm like managing a very small space of things. So let me get over here. Okay, so in case you don't know who I am, I'm Tobi Johnson. I'm the president and founder of Tobi Johnson and Associates and Volunteer Pro. You may have seen our volunteer management progress report. For 10 years, we did industry surveys, and our most recent was back in January of 2025, we did the recruitment edition, and I'll be quoting a little bit of the stats from that report later in the podcast or in this episode. Sorry, I got podcast on my brain. I also am the host of the Volunteer Nation podcast. If you want the volunteer management progress report, you can scan that QR code and just type in your name and email, and we'll send you a copy. Lots of data on volunteer recruitment, different methods people are using, what are the metrics people are achieving, all of that good stuff. Plus, we did a little bit on volunteer manager salaries, I think, last year. And we took a pause this year on the report because we've been doing it for 10 years. But I don't think my life in researching our field is over. So stay tuned. We might do something this year, who knows, but it's usually something we do in the fall. So if you are a person who has participated in that research in the past, just thank you for being a survey respondent. You help us be able to bring insights to the field. And if you're interested in more around volunteer recruitment and strategies and tactics, as well as other volunteer engagement strategies, check out my pod, because I do a lot of discussion of tips and tricks for recruitment, as well as lots of other things. In fact, my most recent episode dropped tomorrow, which is my 200th episode. So I've been doing podcasting for over 3.5 years, nearly 4 years. It's and for the last 2 weeks, I've been talking about my trends for 20 and where I see volunteerism heading and where we need to think and what we need to be prepared for in the world of volunteer engagement, but also in our communities, how our communities are changing. So I hope those are helpful to you. And then if you ever want to check out Volunteer Pro, you can just go to volpro.net and learn all about our training, etc. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. Today's agenda, we're going to focus on win-back messaging and how it really differs from regular recruitment calls to action. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how recruitment has really changed. Marketing itself has changed. There's been a sea change in what's working in marketing, especially online marketing. And I want to make sure you're up to speed on that. So I'm going to share a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about volunteer objections as well, how to use them to strengthen, not weaken your appeals, because where any marketing offer, anytime you invite somebody to do something for your nonprofit, people are going to come up with reasons why they want to say no. But that doesn't mean it can stop us. And I think we should actually preempt those objections with really good content and really good messaging. So I want to talk about how to do that in a simple way. And then just some fresh ideas and how to go about connecting with lapsed volunteers. And when I say lapsed volunteers, I'm really talking about a pretty broad group of people. I'm talking about not only folks who may have contributed time already and may have stopped volunteering for whatever reason, Or people, it could also include people who've gone partway through your application process, or maybe they even completed your application process, but they never really converted into active volunteers. And so when I say lapsed volunteers, I'm talking about a big group of people, not just people who've already volunteered for you. So just that's just a little mindset and also just definition for you when I'm talking about lapsed volunteers. We also have an awesome win back campaign workbook. So everything I'm talking about today, you'll of course, if you don't have them already, get the slide thumbnails so you can go through and remind yourself of what you learned today. But also I have a win back campaign workbook for you that will walk you through this and help you take today and implement it at your organizations. Because you know what? Training isn't worth anything. Don't take action and get traction with it. So that's my key goal, is that you take action and start winning back those volunteers. So when it comes to marketing, I love this Sun Tzu quote: strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. And what I see out there in the world of volunteer recruitment and marketing is the fact that folks are not thinking strategically. They're really only thinking tactically. And what I mean by that is they're thinking about, hey, what should I put in my posting? Hey, what should I put in my flyer? Or where should I go find volunteers? And they're not thinking big picture and analyzing, who's the audience that I want to reach? What are the messages that they can best resonate with? And where can I find them? That is a more strategic approach. And marketing has really changed. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But the first step to really strategically understanding your recruitment, often when I'm coaching, I do recruitment accelerator coaching with clients, and I'll do a comms audit, a communications audit of everything they do in their recruitment, their search engine optimization, their website, their social media, their email marketing, everything. And I'll give them this massive report. And when we start working together, the first question I will ask is, okay, how many volunteers do you need and in what roles? And by when? And they'll go, well, and folks won't really have a concrete goal. So the first step in your strategy, even before you start winning back volunteers, is to understand where are you going to align them and where are you going to get them plugged into what you're doing. And so before you even start your campaign, your first strategic move is to understand your roles and goals. And so before you start typing up emails and, creating, a landing page, all the stuff we're going to talk about today, I want you to be clear on who you're recruiting and how many people you need. How many volunteers, from what geographic areas, with what skills, with what availability, by when, and who are they going to work with once they start contributing at your organization. So you also want to keep in mind that you're going to have your primary roles that you want volunteers to join, but you also want to think about your secondary roles. What are the kinds of roles that volunteers could help with if they don't fit into your primary roles? This is called being flexible, and this is the way of the world right now. So you don't want to lose an ounce of volunteer talent when you start this win-back campaign, because one of the reasons that you may have lost a volunteer in the past is because there wasn't an opportunity that fit their preferences and lifestyle. So you've got to have a few flexible roles in your back pocket so that you can start to mold something that might work for some of these volunteers. So it's really important when you're doing win-back campaigns in particular, but always, to have primary roles and secondary roles. Let's talk about strategy, more about strategy for a minute. And just in marketing, it's changed so much in the last few years. The things that we used to do at Volunteer Pro to attract new students and members, etc., is we would, we try to cast a really huge net and just try to reach everybody. And then we would talk to them about our offers and what we can do to help. And then a few people at the bottom of what we call funnel, this is funnel marketing, that we would have a few people pop out and say, yep, I think I want to become a Volunteer Pro Impact Lab member, or yes, I want to join your Volunteer Management Fundamentals course. And that has been the way of the world for a really long time in marketing. But there is a new way that people are thinking about marketing and thinking about attracting prospects to their opportunities, in your case, volunteers to your volunteer roles. And that is through a flywheel approach. And in some ways, this kind of takes it back to old school volunteer engagement, when we thought about retention, recruitment and retention as two sides of the same coin. This is very similar. So in a flywheel, you have basically three stages: attract, engage, and delight. So attracting is really communicating with strangers and letting them know you exist. Engaging is converting a stranger to a prospect, someone who has potential interest in what you're doing. And then delighting, in this case, the flywheel says customers, but we're talking about volunteers and supporters. When they are engaged, then they join our organization, and then we move to delighting them with their volunteer experience. And what we mean by that, delighting, is creating an experience that is so meaningful and so fun for our volunteers that they just can't wait to talk about it with others. And then they become promoters, as you see in that outside ring. They go from prospects to customers, or volunteers in our case, to promoters to strangers. So we're taking this flywheel and we're moving from attract, engage, and delight with our volunteers. So this is a much more effective model, and a win-back campaign is a strategy, a framework that works really well with this model. Now, the good news is, with a win-back campaign, you've already knocked out one of the steps in this process. Attract, you've already attracted those folks. They already know you exist. Now, they may have not contributed time and talent to your organization yet, but they know who you are. So you don't have to find them out in the world. They're not in the stranger category. They have become friends of some sort. So that's a good news for win-back campaign. You already have ticked off the box on that one step. The other thing to think about is what channels or what media you will use to reach out to the public about your recruitment and your opportunities and your organization's role in the world. Now, multi-channel marketing, these are the top ways that nonprofit organizations reach the community. And the good news with win-back campaigns is you don't need to worry about SEO, search engine optimization, or online search, or even AI search, because these folks aren't looking for you on Google right now, because they already know who you are. You don't need to work on earned media or public relations or getting media coverage, because again, these folks already know who you are, so you don't have to go out and find them that way. Now, you don't need to even use social media, because maybe these folks are social media followers, but they're already on your contact list. And so, yes, you can use social media, but it's not necessary for a win-back campaign. And then I put a half slash through paid ads and postings, because you can use paid ads, in particular remarketing ads, to send ads to people who have gone and have visited your volunteer recruitment landing page, or maybe a thank you page even after they've submitted an application. Now, this is sort of advanced level stuff. I'm not going to talk about it a lot today, but there is such thing as a remarketing campaign that you can work with your Marcoms person, or if you do Facebook ads or Google ads, if you do paid advertising, there is a way to do remarketing and follow up with people who've already visited a specific webpage. And in this case, I would recommend remarketing to people who have visited a thank you page after they've completed an application, or have gone to your recruitment page, somewhere where you know they're sort of already in the fold and already know something about you. But again, that's advanced. I wouldn't worry about it right now. You do not need that. Need paid ads for this type of strategy. The two things you will need are email and live events, and we're going to talk about that. So win-back campaigns are awesome. They save time and money by re-engaging people who are more likely to know, like, and trust your organization. Now, I say more likely, it's not guaranteed. If they had already applied and weren't treated well, didn't have a good time, nobody ever got back to them, they felt like a second-class citizen, you know the drill. If they feel like that, then you're going to have more work to do in your remarketing and in your win-back campaign. Now, all that bad blood might have happened way before you were on the scene. And so you're going to have to do some work in your messaging about sort of energizing people and telling people how things are different now. And we're going to talk about a rapid response plan, and you're going to show people, not only tell them how valuable they are. All right. So let's get into the win-back messaging. So messaging is so important. Words have so much power, and we don't take enough time in our recruitment strategies to really purposefully think this through. So I'm going to help you with some really great prompts, and these are all in your workbook, and also some formulas that can help you write good copy. Nobody was born a great copywriter. We all learned it either through the school of hard knocks of writing copy and having nobody, maybe putting up volunteer recruitment postings and having no one respond. Often that's because our copy is not good. And some of us have sent out emails and nobody opens them. That's because our subject lines are not appealing enough, or we're just not a trusted sender. We're not giving people any value. So let's talk about that copywriting. So first of all, especially if people have left because they're grumpy about something at your organization, you've got to re-energize them. So we've got to get them from a static position to a position in movement and saying, yeah, okay, I am going to volunteer this time. So you do that, I think, this is my perspective and what I know about today's marketing, is you've got to paint a renewed vision of hope for people. The world is a anxiety producing place. So you've got to provide an alternate space for people to go that has hope, that has that people feel like change can be made, and that people feel like they have agency. So I have some prompts here for you to think about, and these are in the workbook. So after you jump off, just take a few minutes and think about this. So think about what is possible that you're going to communicate to volunteers. Now, you notice I'm not starting with, hey, here's the 25 things you have to do to re-engage with us. You need to refill out the application. You need to do this. You need to do, you need to go to the Amazon rainforest. You need to go to 20 days of boot camp. We need to do a retinal scan. We need to check your DNA, and maybe we'll let you volunteer. That's not what this is. That is not how we lead with an ask, right? That's not how we lead with that. Go to your website and see if your website sounds like that. If it does, let's switch your copy to this. Even if you're not doing a win-back campaign, put some copy, put some messaging like this. So what is possible? Think broadly. What are the current challenges for those you serve? It doesn't necessarily even have to be direct service clients. It can be the community. Even if you're an arts and culture organization, there are challenges of people in your community. People don't feel connected. People don't feel like they have extra interesting things in their life. People aren't getting out of their house enough. All of those things arts and culture organizations solve. So you do not have to be working in direct service to serve a community need. You know this, right? Okay, what's the bright future, the new future that you envision for your neighborhood, your community, the place that volunteers serve? And what is the better world that will come about because of volunteer support? Just brainstorm this stuff, and you will start coming up with exceptional things, copies, words to share with your volunteers. Then you really want to lean into, why do volunteers matter? What transformation are volunteers bringing about? Now, your win-back campaign audience, your prospects, they already know who you are, but you've got to remind them about this new world that they can help build. So what will you achieve that you could not achieve without their help? They need to know that they're really valued, that there is a real need, not just we need as many warm bodies as we can get. No, no, no. That's not what it's about at all. It's about making a difference, right? Volunteers don't work because they want to work for free. They don't join us because they want to work for free. They're not out there looking for free labor. They're looking to make a difference. And so we've got to communicate on their level, which is around making a difference. So why does the transformation occur? What are the goals, the activities, the quality of life for your patrons, patients, customers, clients, community? How is you got to get into that transformation. What is it? What does it look? Not, we need volunteers to fill these shifts. That is not a compelling appeal. I don't want to be a widget that's shoved into a slot. I'm sorry, that's not me. And I volunteered for the same organization for over a decade. Why? Because we're making a difference all the time. And I love what I do. So why is their support important? And especially right now, why are you making this ask? Why are you getting in touch right now? So brainstorm this stuff and you will start to come up with words that you want to share in email and on what we call a landing page. Now, I personally recommend that you set up a separate landing page on your website to send people that you are reaching out to via email in your win-back campaign. The reason I like to have a separate landing page on your website is because you can really tailor, and tailoring your messaging is so important right now, so that you can tailor your messaging to folks who already know you. So you might say things on this landing page like, you may have volunteered with us before, or you may have started your application process and not finished it. We would love to see you here. You see how that is a totally different messaging scope of what you're talking about. It's very tailored to these folks that are your prospects that already know, like, and trust you. They're not people that are strangers. You don't have to educate them about every single thing. And likely their application process will look slightly different than somebody who's never completed anything. And so you want to communicate those requirements differently, right? And you can always include a link on this landing page that says, if you've never applied with us before or you're brand new to us, please go to this page, because people may start sharing your landing page with friends and family. That's fine. Then you can tell them, if you've never talked to us before, please go to this webpage, and you can put a button there. So you'll never lose anybody this way. Now, on this landing page, you can make it even focused on one single volunteer opportunity. Now, I also recommend, on your website, if you have a main volunteer recruitment hub page, that you have separate web pages for each opportunity. But you can also make this landing page a single opportunity ask, if that's your priority. Again, I always recommend you have secondary roles for folks that this one opportunity doesn't work for them. So you want to put above the fold. Now, what do I mean by above the fold? It means that they don't have to scroll, that they are on their phone or on their laptop or on their computer or on their tablet, and they don't have to scroll to get this information. Above the fold is the best real estate on your website. So you want to put the most important info there. So first thing, volunteer opportunity and impact statement, what volunteers do in this role. Because of volunteers in this team, they help this people bring about this change that results in this tangible income. It's an impact statement. People get right away what this is all about, right? And then I like to sound like you. So what are the characteristics for volunteers in this role, including schedule and other minimum qualifications? Really brief, but does this sound like you? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about addressing objections in a minute. So put a pin in that, because we can also address objections proactively here as well. And then call to action. It may be an application form. In your case, if they've already been through the application process, then I would say do an interest form or a re-engagement form or something. Contact form, something that can ping you and let you know folks are ready to get energized with you, okay? Now, below the fold, so further on down on that landing page, you might include lots of other details that for those volunteers who want to reacquaint themselves with your organization, they can. Now, application form, probably not necessary, might be if they don't have a completed application, but lots of things. These are just not, you don't have to include all of these. These are just some ideas. But, you know, some people want to, now what was this organization all about again? I can't remember. Let me remind myself, okay? And then a link back to your main volunteering page for those who want to get started again or want to learn about other volunteer opportunities. So if you have specific opportunities that you really need to fill right now and you're using this win back campaign to fill those opportunities first, then you can use this opportunity page. If not, you can make it more general and say, here are some of the roles that we have going, and you could link those to other opportunity pages. So you're sort of doing this sort of hierarchy of pages, interactive pages. If not, do one landing page, just talk about in general and make the ask for people to indicate interest that they want to re-up with you, okay? Now, this is the powerhouse of the win back campaign, and it is your email sequence. So your win back email sequence is a sequence of emails. Doesn't have to be 6 emails, but I wouldn't do fewer than, I don't know, 5, 4. I would definitely not do fewer than 4. Here's the thing. If you look at your open rates on your emails, most nonprofits are around 20 to 30% of the people they send emails to have an open rate. Now, if you're doing this campaign, you want to be checking your open rates. But if you think about that, only if you're getting a 30%, 33% open rate, only 1/3 of everybody who gets that email is actually opening it. Now, it could have gone to spam, they could have been busy, they could have accidentally deleted it, or they just didn't have time to read it. So most people are not opening every single one of your emails. Now, at Volunteer Pro, we do really well with our open rates. We can get it with our weekly newsletter, we can get 40, 50, sometimes 60% open rate, depending. So your email subject lines are really important. So you want to think about those email subject lines and whether or not they're going to be click-worthy, right? That's going to get that open. But what do you put in these emails? Well, here's my recommendations for what to put in these emails. So the first email, I call it the nudge, because folks haven't, and I'm not calling it the nag. I'm not calling it the nag because this is not a naggy type email, and check your tone for that. This is not about that. The nudge is like, hey, have you missed making a difference with us? Or have you missed making a difference as a volunteer? Or just have you missed making a difference? And then you can talk about in that email, here's what, here's an opportunity we have for you. And then you link to that landing page. Now, I always recommend a button and a link somewhere in that email, link more than once in every email to that landing page, okay? Second email, FOMO, fear of missing out. Here's what's been happening since we last saw you. You can use testimonials, you can do a quick bulleted list of some fantastic things, some achievements, so people get a sense that they're missing out. Yeah, you're going to leverage fear of missing out. It's important. We've got, people are procrastinators, so we've got to get them nudged and off the couch. The email is the road ahead. So what is the problem we're going to solve together? Here's why volunteers are needed right now. Here's why we're in touch with you. Here's the problem, the transformation, the change that we want to partner with you around. The fourth email is invitation to act. And I actually like to be kind of direct with this one. So you decide if this is good for you, but I like to say, hey, we've sent you a few emails about this. Now, if someone clicks and joins, you got to take them out of this email sequence. So figure out a way that either manually or when they click on that button, you can set it up in your email system that it will stop emailing. We're going to talk in a minute about how to use TeamKinetic software to do some of this. It doesn't do all of this, but I'm going to tell you an easy way. But you do want to take people out of the sequence if they if they've decided to say yes and raise their hand. You don't want to keep nagging them, right? We're not nagging, we're nudging, right? So the invitation to act is very direct. It's like basically you have two choices. You can sit on the couch and enjoy what you're doing, or you can step up like so many others have and help make this difference in the community. We would so much love to have you. And then I would include some testimonials from volunteers about their work with you. The fifth email is some kind reminders. Remember when you XYZ, or imagine if, 100 volunteers stepped up to help, our young people or our newcomers learn to read, right? What about that? Or our newcomers learn the English language. Like, imagine if 100 people stepped up and raised their hand in our community and said, yes, I'm going to be one of those people. So these kind reminders are, again, reminding people of that big vision. Remember, we did some brainstorming, or I gave you some prompts for brainstorming. And then last chance, doors are closing. Now, you may be open 24/7, 365 days a year to help or to welcome people as volunteers. However, if you do not leverage scarcity or urgency in your marketing, people are much less likely to take action. So set up a training, a reorientation, a refresher, something, set deadlines. It may be more than one date to make it available for a lot of people, but say doors are closing to register, save your seat. If you've had a lot of people register already, say X number of people have already registered and this is what they're saying about it. Okay, so you've got to have a deadline. I know we're these big fans of 24/7, 365 recruitment, but I got to tell you, and check it out. Believe me when I tell you, in our last volunteer management progress report, in the recruitment edition, we found that organizations that opened their doors and closed their doors and had specific campaign-based recruitment throughout the year, that they actually reported higher volunteer capacity than those that had their door open 365. So I think that plays out in the world of marketing, that people need a deadline. Okay, so now that's your win back series. That's to let people know, hey, you're so welcome. We would love to have you. Here's why your help would be so helpful right now. Here's the things that you've missed since you've been gone. We are here. We would love to work with you, right? Now, once people say yes, you can also send a bonus email series that I call the email welcome series. I like it. I actually call it the Get Inspired email series. So this is to cement that commitment. This is to cement that commitment, to say to folks like, hey, you know what? Not only are you committed, but I want you to be really committed, because, we're going to get you set up with shifts. We're going to get you at this event, et cetera, et cetera. So you can, 5 days, real impact stories, day in the life video, what do volunteers do? Myth busting, frequently asked questions, testimonials from volunteers and the people that they serve, easy first steps for folks to take, like here's your guide for your first day, or just a reminder of things to remember to bring, here's where to park, all that good stuff. And then I like the hit reply and tell me. It's such a good interaction. We often think there's no way with email, we just can't be personable. Are you kidding me? Of course you can. You can put a video in your email. You can write really engaging copy, and you can even personalize with people's first names. But you can also just say in an email, hey, hit reply and tell me what you're most excited about in terms of your volunteering with us. I can't wait to hear from you. And people will respond. I'm telling you, I don't even ask people to hit reply. And when I send out my newsletter every week, people will actually respond if they are, either it'll be like something really short, like a heart or a thumbs up, or someone will respond and say, you know what, this is helping me exactly in the time I need it. I get these emails every once in a while. People want to have a conversation with you. So have one with them, right? All right, couple really quick copywriting hacks. Just a few things to pique interest in your copy that makes it more two-way. Just out of curiosity. Oh, I bet you're a bit like me. Sometimes you put things off. Like if you want people to not feel guilty about the fact that they haven't been supporting you lately, just say, I bet you're a lot. You get over, you have too much on your plate sometimes. Sometimes you get overwhelmed. Sometimes things get in the way of the things that you really want to do and love, and you know that's good for you. This is your opportunity, and this is what I do in that situation. I get really clear on what I want in my life. You can do a lot of coaching with people in these emails. You can introduce change. How open-minded are you to trying a new volunteer opportunity? Just imagine if, You can trigger actions. What questions do you have for me? Hit reply. What happens next is, here's the next steps. So this is, our copywriting needs a lot of work. I'm sorry, but I've done a lot of comms audits for nonprofits, and our copywriting, you guys, it needs work. So these are some hacks to start to lighten it up and also make it very interactive, okay? Here's the deal, the bottom line for communicating with volunteers. Often people say, that's too many emails. Well, not if they're really engaging. Not if they're really engaging and give people valuable information. People will open them. People are down on what they're not up on. And if you're not communicating and educating them about your nonprofit, its needs, what the volunteers can do to transform the community and the mission, then, they're not going to know. So we often feel like we're saying the same things over and over again. I can guarantee you that your audience has not heard them as much as they need to. So keep them in the loop, okay? Now, let's talk about volunteer objections really quickly, because they are something that you are always going to encounter when you make an offer. Always. Always when you appeal to somebody, whether it's a donation or volunteering, you're going to get people to say no. It happens. It's just, that's what happens when you make an ask. So I'm curious if you want to post in the chat, what are some of the biggest objections that you hear from volunteers when you say, like, hey, I have an opportunity for you. Would you like to volunteer? When they say no, what is the reason they give you for not volunteering? And just go ahead and post in the, I don't have time. Exactly. Doesn't everybody say that? Too busy, scheduling conflicts. I often think I don't have time. When I do training, we talk about this. When I don't have time, it's often a foil for a lot of other reasons. Don't have time, don't know my plans in advance, lack of flexibility, etc. Okay, so don't want to do all the education required, etc., etc. Yeah, okay. So again, we've preempted that in some ways by designing some roles that may be less of a lift for folks, more flexibility. We have those secondary roles. But also, I want you to think through how you can address these barriers and challenges proactively and preemptively. So addressing it in your copy, okay? So let's talk about this. So this is a really good exercise to go through, to really think about what are the objections that I need to talk about ahead of time to help people understand and educate. I always say that a no is an invitation to educate a little bit more. Now, ultimately, it may not be the right time for people, and that's okay. They are offering you their most valuable asset, which is their time left on this planet. And so we want to make sure that we're respecting people when they say they don't have enough time, because sometimes people legitimately don't. But we also want to educate people because they may not understand a lot about what they're committing to. So write down the 5 reasons why volunteers might be hesitant or worry about getting or staying involved with your organization. Then analyze each concern with an open and empathetic mind. Make sure you really understand what the objection is. When people say they don't have enough time, I always recommend people ask, tell me more about that. Because there may be, well, I have to pick up my child at school. Well, we have some online volunteer opportunities. Or, hey, we have family volunteering opportunities. You could volunteer with your kids, right? So they don't know all these things, right? So if we don't start the conversation, tell me more about that, right? Pinpoint exactly what the barrier is. Validate your concerns in your content, but show the way. Like, there is a way. Even if this is a challenge or barrier for you, there is a way. We will work with you, and offer content and solutions that address that barrier. And when I say content and solutions, I'll give you an example, the most powerful testimonials from your volunteers to share with prospective volunteers, including in your win-back campaigns, is a testimonial that talks about how someone overcame that objection. So I would, if you were collecting testimonials from volunteers, quotes from them about their experience, I would ask them, how have you managed to fit volunteering into your busy schedule? It is such a great prompt, and you will get those quotes that help your others, your perspectives, look at it and say, okay, other people are doing this, and this is how they're doing it. So you're overcoming proactively with content, and that content is a testimonial that addresses that challenge. Now, there are other barriers. Lack of confidence is a barrier. Flexibility is a barrier. A lot of times it's people are unsure. They're unsure they can do the job well. There's lots of reasons. So dig into this deeply, instead of just accepting, I don't have enough time, as the core objection and moving on with your life. You've got to get into this and understand. Now, another way you can proactively address objections, is to create I call it the perfect for you method. Create a challenge style checklist. Now, this is something we've done with our membership community at the Volunteer Pro Impact Lab. I've used this strategy in my own marketing. So membership is for you if you are passionate about your cause and want to make a real difference. You're willing to invest now in what will save you time later. You're willing to put in the work needed to realize success. You're ready to earn the respect you and your volunteers deserve. So I'm basically, it's a challenge, but I'm really just saying, does this sound like you, right? Do you believe in these things? Do you stand for these things? Membership is not for you, and in your case, it'd be volunteering is not for you. You're looking for a miracle cure to fix all your problems. You know all you need to know about volunteer management. So people who are know-it-alls in our field, come on. We're always evolving. No one knows it all. So if people think they know it all, then my offer isn't for them, right? My Impact Lab is not for them, right? So for your volunteers, if they feel like your cause is not a real issue in the world, then they're not for you, right? We want to separate out the people who aren't for us as well. You would rather complain than take a chance and try a new tactic. Or, I might say something like, you'd rather stand by and watch kids or watch people flounder. Okay. I mean, we might not put it that harshly, but we could put a little bit of challenge in there. Or you aren't willing to make the changes needed to grow. Now, it might be, volunteering is for you if you love to make new friends, if you really want to put your money where your mouth is, or if you really want to make a commitment to kids in need. This is something that you care passionately about. You can frame it in a more positive way if you want. I like to put things in there that challenge people a little bit, that stop them to think, like, am I really committed in making change in this area? And this is really addressing any objections people have, that you're willing, volunteering is for you, that you're willing to figure out, to work with us to find a time that works for you for as little as 2 hours a week or 4 hours a month, right? So you can put some of your qualifications in here as well. It's a very creative way to get people thinking. You want your landing pages, your website to actually have this interactive feel to it, that people are having a conversation with you, or at least they're considering things in their head. Now, social proof or your testimonial. Social proof is basically people do what most people are doing. We follow the herd because we're human beings, and that's how we've survived for tens of thousands of years, because we work in packs. And so we follow where the ratings and reviews are. So I love this framework for putting it on your landing page or even putting it in an email. What people are saying about volunteering right now. You can put their volunteer reviews, ask them to rate the star rating, and just put something really simple that looks like this. People are used to looking at things like this because, they do. We've been trained on Amazon. When we buy online, we're deciding a hotel to go to, we're deciding a restaurant to go to. So social proof, really important. These are trust indicators that we want to include in our emails and on our website. Lots of questions for testimonials. I still like the one, how did you manage to fit volunteering into your busy schedule? Or did volunteering really take over your life like you thought it would? How manageable is it for you? So you can really or what did you think about volunteering and incorporating it into your life, and how has it worked out for you? Actually, it's been really easy. I just come every third Wednesday, and it's perfect for my schedule, right? People will tell you, and you'll have very excellent things to share with your audience. Again, the most powerful testimonials directly address your projects or your prospects' objections, right? So scarcity and urgency, I talked about this already, but really talking about, we only have 9 seats left for our volunteer orientation, our signups close on June 30th at 5 p.m. You may open the door. People may reach out to you if it's, hey, you know what, I missed the deadline. And you can give people, flexibility that way. But you got to get people off the couch. And, Netflix and streaming online is a powerful adversary when it comes to volunteer recruitment. So you have got to use every tool in your marketing toolkit. And fear of missing out, scarcity, and urgency, they are just essential. All right, last thing I want to talk about real quick is fresh ideas to reconnect with those lapsed volunteers, whether they have volunteered a little bit and fallen off the radar, or they didn't make it through your recruitment process, okay? So let's talk about this. First of all, you've got to build human connections. I know I've been talking about email. I know I've been talking about website, but I also want you to think about, how do we build human connections with people? People are looking for connection. People are craving connection. So you can set up info sessions. These are not new volunteer orientations. They are short sessions online or on land that tell people, here's what's up. Here's what we're asking. We'd love to have your help. Do you have any questions? Here's a few volunteers who are going to talk about their experience. It's to get people excited and answer questions and to remove objections. They're not, here's everything about our organization, here's how to do the volunteer role, et cetera, et cetera. That is an induction or orientation. It is not an info session. Okay, Q&As, you can do quick Q&As, you can do Q&As online, you can do Q&As, you can live stream Q&As on your socials, you can do Q&As in person. You can pre-schedule intake calls. So you can say, hey, if you send these emails out in your email sequence, you can say, hey, click here to RSVP for our info sessions. Here's several different dates, or click here to have a quick 15-minute call. And you can you set it up in Calendly or another, and just have folks book with you. Do not go back and forth in the nightmare that is individual email in your Outlook, trying to nail people down. Such a waste of time. You're losing momentum when people have to go through multiple steps to contact you. So get it tight. Keep it tight. People have already fallen off once. It's going to be hard to get them back, but easier than getting back a stranger. Get your training dates for the orientation, the role training, everything else. Get those on the calendar so people know what to expect in the future. I used to train volunteer managers when I worked for a state organization years ago, and they would I'd say, when do we want to book our volunteer training? Because I would do the orientation trainings. I was responsible for that in my region. I'd say, when are we going to do that? Well, I don't have enough volunteers yet. I go, well, people aren't going to keep you on they're not going to stay on your wait list forever. They have lives. They've got to plan things. They got vacations. They got family stuff. They got spring break. They got school starting. They got a course they're taking. They got an elder who's going through surgery. Blah 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 blah. If you can't get on people's calendar, at least a month in advance, good luck with that. So we want to, set those dates. Now, if you don't get enough people to sign up for them, you can always cancel them. But you've got to give people, get on their calendar early. This is the world where we cannot expect people do not want to be on our wait lists. No, they don't, right? Now, another thing I want to talk about really quickly, rapid response plan. We cannot lose momentum again with our win-back campaigns. We've got to build momentum and sustain momentum throughout the campaign. So we've got to streamline our inquiry process and our application process. Really, if people are re-upping, streamline it as much as you can. Now, I know in your organizations, you may not be able to control everything that's required, but you've got to streamline it as much as possible. Even that just booking Calendly, using Calendly streamlines the process. But you also, if there is application, reapplication, figure out a way for people to get through it quickly. Lots of stuff you need to think about. Get your rapid response plan. I got to tell you, your standard for responding to people, 1 business day. Yes, that's right. 1 business day. If people are waiting 2 weeks to hear back, forget about it. We're not in that world anymore. And if you're not recruiting enough volunteers, this is the place to look first. Like, do we have a rapid response plan for volunteers? This is customer service 101 in 2026, right? So, get up, go, no go. You want to follow up with people, and don't let people just like hang out and we're not sure with this volunteer. Get with them, say, is this a go or a no go? We got to know, right? So rapid. Also, you want to prevent turnover. Also, prevent early turnover. Volunteers get involved and then they fade away again. They ghost us again. We cannot have this in phase 2. This is our re-engagement campaign. This is our win-back campaign. We cannot have people turning over again. Can't have it. Rapid response turnover prevention plan. Okay. So offer a warm welcome. And this is something that your coworkers need to get. If they are the folks that are saying hello, whether they are volunteer leaders or coworkers that are responsible for welcoming volunteers, get them trained. What exactly should they be doing? If they're not trained and they don't have standards and expectations, they're not going to follow them. Volunteers sometimes are the last thing on a long list of priorities. So you've got to make sure they understand these are the minimums that are required if you're going to work with our volunteers. Efficient check-in, clear task description, what success looks like. Describe to the volunteer, this is what success looks like. And here's where you can get help. And here's where you store your stuff. And by the way, did I introduce you to this awesome other volunteer that's going to be working with you? Promote belonging. So efficient, warm welcome, but also belonging. People have to feel like they're part of the team from day one, from minute one. Buddy systems. If you get people on a WhatsApp group, start shouting out to all your volunteers. Hey, so-and-so showed up today. Here's a picture. So pumped to have you, right? Opening and closing rituals. If you're working with a small team, really short things that people do. Sometimes it could be at the end. I used to work with, I was consulting with a theater group, arts and culture organization, multiple theaters in their city. When they worked with their volunteer, they had volunteer ushers at the end of the shift, at the end of the show. They would get together in the lobby and they would go around and they would say what they were grateful for the day or what they were excited about. And then when they would put their hands in, woo, go team. Simple, but They feel like it's a ritual that everybody knows, everybody belongs to, okay? And then request honest feedback so that you can improve. Nothing is perfect in this world. And so we want people to share feedback and get back to them and say, okay, I heard you. Let's see what we can do about that. And we don't need to take it personally. You don't need to take it personally. Feedback is a gift when people spend time giving it to you. Yeah? Okay, so let's talk quickly about this TeamKinetic tools, okay? Steve was really nice to send me a Loom video and show me some of the tools that you have at if you're a TeamKinetic user. If you're not, check it out, right? If you're in the US, it's not here yet. But if you're in the UK, TeamKinetic tools, if you're not yet using that software, let's get with it, right? So let's segment. You can segment volunteers that you're going to re-engage with in your win-back campaign. So you can pull them out as a specific group. So you can search for inactive volunteers in the TeamKinetic. And I realize I don't have my TeamKinetic words together. I made a little typo there. Sorry about that, guys. But you can search for people by the date of their last login, or if they've not signed up for an opportunity yet. You could even create 2 separate segments that you're going to communicate slightly differently to, if they haven't volunteered at all or they haven't volunteered in a while, or just do one. But you can pull those folks out and send broadcast emails to that specific group that you serve. So you create that group, you schedule those broadcast emails. Now, you don't schedule the sequence, that capability isn't there yet, but you can schedule your broadcast 1 email at a time. So they don't necessarily have to be in one campaign, but you can pre-schedule them, write them up, pre-schedule them, and send them to this group that you've created. So super easy. Then you can also send personal emails to folks via the platform. You can even embed a video. You could link to a video, right? You can create a video in another platform, link to it, and send it to folks. So there are just easy ways to get in touch with those folks that are been lapsed and get them in this win-back campaign. You could do this literally tomorrow if you wanted to. You could set this all up tomorrow to spend half a day or a day getting your copy in order, getting your Calendly links if you're going to do interviews, getting your info sessions. In a day, you could have this book ready to go, and you could start doing your win-back campaign. Much more efficient and effective than trying to recruit strangers, right? Start with your win-back campaigns first. So just to close, this is what good marketing is. In today's world, you make an offer or you send out an appeal or a request, you listen to see if it's been picked up on by your audience, and then you make adjustments. So why am I saying this? Marketing is 360 degrees. It is about making our best guess about what our audience wants to hear. In this case, our particular audience of lapsed volunteers. And then we try to figure out where we need to track and tweak. So you want to check in your campaign your micro conversions. So set up a table with each of the steps in this process, whether it's opening your emails, visiting your landing page, RSVPing for an info session, showing up for an info session. And you can see where there are, actually, hey, there's not a big difference between people opening our emails and visiting our landing page. That means that our copy inside our email is working because people are clicking and going to our landing page. But oh my goodness, look here. People are going to a live info session, but they're not translating into the orientation. So there's something we've got to tweak about that info session to get people more involved. Now, one of the things I always recommend is get them booked and RSVP'd for that orientation before that info session's over. And you're like, well, I'm doing an info session online. So post the link in the chat and have people sign up for the next orientation, right? That's a quick and dirty way to get more people to your info session. So by tracking your micro conversions, you can start to find what's not working. And when you change that, you can, change the trajectory of everything downstream from that one hiccup, right? That one place people are getting stuck. Remember, marketing 60 degrees. There's no way in heck you're going to get it perfect. You're going to give your best guesstimate, and then you're going to make tweaks along the way. That's how marketing works. And if you're wondering, you can download, I know we're at the top of the hour, so I have a couple more slides, and then I'll do some Q&A if you want to stick around. But in the Volunteer Management Progress Report, if you download that, you can get more conversion rates. But if you're wondering sort of what's happening in the world, we had 285 people say they track new volunteer conversion rates from initial contact to active volunteer, and the average is about 41 to 50%. We can do way better than that, folks. Event participation rate, we had about 450 people in our survey say they track that, and about 61 to 70% of those volunteers that sign up for event shifts actually show up. So use these to benchmark, but I always say benchmark against yourself and start to see what you can improve. Again, marketing is 360 degree. In today's world, we've got to attune and make our best guesstimate of what our volunteers are going to respond to, but we also need to track and make changes. So never confuse a single defeat with a final defeat when it comes to marketing. So if you've had trouble attracting volunteers, or you've tried a win-back campaign in the past and it hasn't worked, don't give up. Don't give up. There's something missing from your campaign. I can guarantee you, people are out there who want to help you. And the people that have already indicated interest are the first place to start. All right. So I don't know, Rolf, if you have time for some Q&A, I'd be happy to do a little Q&A.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Has anyone got any questions for Toby or for me about TeamKinetic?
Yeah, about features, etc. And thanks for being here, everybody.
That's I've got everybody up now on my screen. It's very colorful. Okay, any questions at all?
Any questions for me about your recruitment? So when we email volunteers via TeamKinetic, do we get info on how many people have opened the emails? Rolf, you answered that. Working on getting that info. Talk to us about that, open rates.
So we use an external email engine called Mandrill, which is part of MailChimp. So they do have that, how many times an email's been opened and how many times it's been clicked on links and things like that. But the reason we haven't done it so far is just the amount of data it represents. We're sending 5,750,000 emails a month. And some of those emails are going, to many people as well. So it represents a lot of data.
Yeah.
And moving that around and storing it. So I definitely understand its value, but it's just getting the priorities right.
Yeah. I would also say there's another way to track that as well. And that is everybody, you should have Google Analytics set up for your website. Check with your Marcoms folk or your webmaster or whoever it is. And if you set up that separate landing page, like I recommended for your win-back campaign, because they're clicking from that email to that landing page, you can start to see how many people came to that landing page. So even if you don't have click rates or open rates, you can get a sense, well, we know we sent 500 emails. We know 250 people came to that landing page over this period of time based on our Google Analytics. So we know we have a 50% micro conversion rate.
And for the people that are using TeamKinetic, you can embed your own Google Analytics in TeamKinetic. You just have to let me know what your analytics ID is.
Yes.
So you can track people on certain opportunity pages and event pages, and how many people go to the registration page, all those sorts of things.
Oof. That's a topic for a really good training, by the way. Workbook to support us working through this. So, Rolf, the slide thumbnails in the workbook are going to go to people when?
So everyone that booked a place through TeamKinetic would have been emailed the workbook anyway. And everyone that went through the Eventbrite link, we can get in touch with you and send you the workbook too. If you came in directly from an invite from Tobi, then Tobi, I'm sure, can sort that out for you guys as well.
Yeah, if you responded to my very late email this morning, I apologize so much. I had it set to go at 6 a.m. Eastern, and for whatever reason, it didn't fire. And so right before the event, I ran on and I sent a couple emails real quick. So if you need that, just email me at wecare@fallpro.net. I'm putting it in the chat. Just say, I attended today. Can you send me the workbook and the slide thumbnails? Just shoot me an email. I'll get back to you. I'll send them to you promptly, and we'll take it from there. So anybody who responded quickly today to my email, thank you so much. I'm so impressed that you came. So.
Maybe I had quite a few come in at the late. Zoe's asked about hearing some more about how you can celebrate people finishing their volunteering.
Yes, so that's a great idea for also win back in a way. Okay, let me put this little bee in your bonnet on this one. So when people leave, lots of ways to celebrate. One is social posts, so tagging them on social, maybe doing some kind of ritual on their last day. If it's in person or even online, you can do like you could jump on during their volunteering and get, or meet with them via Zoom or Google Meet and just give them a thumbs up. You could present them with something, certificate. I'm not a huge, plaques and pins person myself, unless they have real meaning. But you use it as a photo opportunity and then tag them and thank them on social and ask people to join you in celebrating this volunteer. I see this a lot in LinkedIn, more and more lately, actually, where people say, I just got my certificate at XYZ, or I was so happy to work with these volunteers last weekend. And there's a lot of commenting going on there, but you've got to tag that volunteer. The other things you can do around win back is to let people know when you give them a fond farewell that they are welcome back anytime. Now, if you're asking someone to leave for a disciplinary reason, then you've got to give them the reasons why they might or might not be welcome back. That's a different story. But I'm talking about fond farewell of someone who's done a great job, is to let them know and ask them, hey, would you like to stay on our newsletter list for our general newsletter? Would you, because if they're on your general newsletter, then they can have the opportunity to make financial contributions to your organization. You might also ask them, would you like us to email you once in a while about opportunities in the future? And they might say, and you could say, it's totally up to you, no pressure. And you could tag people in your database for like a quarterly newsletter or just a quarterly email. Here's some opportunities that are coming up. If you've not been a volunteer for a while, we'd love to have you back. So those are the ways that you can also do volunteer spotlights in your newsletter, or you do volunteer spotlights in your annual report. Those are the ways that I would fond farewell folks. If someone's done something amazing, like worked with your organization for 20 years, then it requires something much more than that. So you could do, we're calling this day the honorary XYZ person's day at our nonprofit, or this meeting room is now for this volunteer team that worked with us and made this amazing thing happen. So you find bigger ways to honor those longer term volunteers. So those are my ideas. There's lots of other ones, but
we've got in TeamKinetic, there's a feature for adding custom badges, which are used for this sort of thing, like 1 year service, those sorts of things. And some of our customers also have sort of reach out days. So they try to get as many volunteers as they can together, face to face, at an event or a cookout or something like that, as you might say in the States. And that's when they recognize particular people.
Yeah. You might also, if you do volunteer, I'm a huge fan of volunteer wellness. If you're doing any volunteer wellness events or just professional development, leadership development training, any of that, you could have a group of emeritus volunteers that you say, we'll keep you on the list. And if you ever want to come back and just come to our trainings, they're free to you for the rest of your life. I mean, that's a pretty awesome. People don't believe that training is also an acknowledgement and a recognition. It's not always a thing. It's not always like stuff. It's like the ability to grow, the ability to be part of a community, the ability to be acknowledged and be seen as a human being. Those are what matter to people, not that they got, a coffee mug.
Great. Katie from St. Margaret's has asked what your ideas are about asking about support needs in an inclusive way.
In an inclusive support needs for financial or volunteer support needs, and around what?
It's probably around, Katie will correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's probably around physical, mental support needs.
Oh, support needs, like, okay, I see. There's like a translation thing here with UK English to US English. So like support needs as a volunteer, like I need extra help. I've gone through, now I am a huge fan of this. So first things first, make sure you're doing professional boundary setting training with your volunteers. I work with a lot of direct service volunteers in traumatic areas where trauma is happening. So I set up an employment and training program for homeless youth in San Francisco. We had volunteer mentor program that I set up. So I was training volunteers on appropriate boundary setting, and the fact that there is such a thing as volunteers who love too much, and that there is, this savior complex that is not helpful for us nor the people we're serving. So we want to make sure, first of all, that people understand how a professional works in an environment like this. So that's the first thing. Second thing is always have somebody who is the point person, that if someone is feeling troubled, that they can set up a time at any time to go talk to that person. Now, that doesn't mean that person's door is open 24/7, that they can book some time to come in, and encourage people constantly to do that. The third thing is, if something traumatic does happen, you need to have a debrief plan in place. So for example, when I worked for that organization and we had our program set up, one of our young people unfortunately committed suicide. And we had to, in one of our transitional living facilities. And so we had to really come together, because it was very grief. Everybody was grieving because we knew this young person very well. And so even if the volunteer doesn't know, you can have these debrief sessions around, you can even do these monthly if secondary post-traumatic stress is a thing and your volunteers are not immune to it. So you could even have support groups once a month that your volunteers could come to, either online or in person, where they're just talking through like what's happening with, say if they're working with youth, what's happening with youth, how they're feeling about it. And then you're reminding them what are the kinds of things that to look for in terms of burnout, in terms of professional boundary, like really, because when we're tired, we tend to be more loose with our boundaries, and sometimes that's when we get into trouble. But the professional boundary setting, so important also to understand that when we don't have good boundaries with those we're serving, we also do them a disservice. So you do training around that, remind people. And then the final thing, let people take time off if they need it. Our work is intense, y'all. And having worked in nonprofits for 25 plus years before I started my consulting, it's intense work. It's not for sissies. And even if we're working in a relatively quote unquote happy environment, people are going through stuff. And we have mirror neurons, and we're human beings, and we are meant to be empaths. And some of us are more empathetic than others. So we need to be able to support those folks.
And in terms of asking about these things at the application stage, Katie, make sure they understand that it's not going to be detrimental to their ability to volunteer. Make sure they're clear that it won't affect the application in any way at all. And also the wording we use by default is if they consider themselves to need support, or if they consider themselves to be disabled. People have different ideas. Someone who's deaf, one person might think they're disabled, another person might not. So I think it's key to make sure that they understand that it doesn't matter. You just want to do the best by them. Make sure that you're prepared to make their volunteer experience good.
Yeah, and I didn't even talk about accommodations. Of course, we're asking about, do you need special accommodations so that your volunteering can be successful? And to normalize this, I like to share stories about when I'm training about professional boundary settings, I like to share stories about where my boundaries were challenged and where other people call, boundary settings a team sport in social services. We would meet as a team and go through all of our clients. Every week we talk through all of our clients and where people are at, what they need and how we're going to help them. And, what we're, we would go through our client list. And sometimes we would talk through it and people would realize, and we would just have a word, we just say boundaries. And we'd be like, oh, wow, okay. It's normal to want to do more than we're really supposed to. We want to color outside the lines because we're human. We want to have connections with people. We're human. It's, but we also need to be safe, right? So accommodations, yes, absolutely. Do you have special needs? It will not preclude you from volunteering. And we also have all of these supports for our volunteers. Yeah.
Great. Claire's got a question specific to TeamKinetic around this Google Analytics thing. So you can't create new pages in TeamKinetic, but what you can do if you're using Google Analytics is you can send them to a particular opportunity page, and then you can track that in Google Analytics, or a particular event page. Or if it's just a registration page and you want to know where they've come from, you can add a parameter to the end of the URL you send them to. And if you want more details on that, Claire, I can help you in a support ticket. So then you can track all the registrations that have happened in response to that link, particularly in Google Analytics. Yeah,
you can even use what's called, and you can Google this or ChatGPT it, a UTM parameter. You can set up UTMs. So you actually have separate codes, and there's a smart way to set these up, and there's a way to, title them and all that. Look it up. But you can, for different sources of people clicking to the same landing page. So you can use that data as well. There's lots of ways to track those micro conversions.
Looks like that's about it, Toby.
One last thing, I'm liking this question. Alexis asks, is TeamKinetic only available in the UK?
Oh, yes.
It is for now, y'all. But wouldn't we love to see it in the US? Wouldn't we?
We're hoping to get there soon.
Yeah, awesome. So, gang, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being invested in your volunteers' success. And let's get all those lapsed volunteers back involved. Yeah? All right. Rolf, thanks for having me.
That's fantastic, Toby. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.